the role of data and analytics. This session will be chaired by Mr. K.S. Gopalkrishnan, an independent director and senior advisor, who will be joined by our esteemed speaker, Mr. Sarbvir Singh, Joint Group CEO, Policy Bazaar, Fintech, India. This session's chair, Mr. K.S. Gopalkrishnan, needs no introduction to the actuarial fraternity. In his career spanning more than 30 years, he has been contributing to IAI in various capacities as a volunteer, and he has held leadership and board positions in the industry at various stages in his career. Our speaker, Mr. Sarbvir Singh, is at present the CEO of PolicyBazaar.com, India's leading insurtech platform. Prior to joining Policy Bazaar, he was a venture capitalist and also served in senior leadership positions with digital and media companies. He was most recently the managing partner of Waterbridge Ventures, a leading early-stage venture fund. He is an alumnus of India's premier institutes, IIT Delhi and IIM Ahmedabad. Gentlemen, please join us on stage.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Let me start by thanking Anurag Rastogi, I don't know whether he's here in the audience, for actually giving me the opportunity. More than an opportunity, I will say it's an honor for me to be chairing a session where the speaker is Sarbvir from Policy Bazaar. Now, why do I say it's an honor for me? It's because I have seen Policy Bazaar quite closely from 2009. They started operations in 2008. And I think they have done quite a few things so different in the insurance industry, particularly on the retail space. At least three things that come to my mind straight away are these. So number one is transparency. I think they were the first one, still continues to be the most dominant one in bringing in transparency with the insurance products, right? So what do I mean by transparency? I think there was a time when if you want to know something about an insurance product, there was no way you can know about it. And even if you end up knowing something about it, it may or may not be complete. It could be inaccurate as well. No? I think just by putting up that technology platform where comparisons became simpler, transparent, I think that kicked off a massive transformation in the way the retail insurance industry has been in the country until then. The second one, I would say, it's very close to my heart as well, is in the way they have done marketing and continue to do marketing. So marketing is not just putting big budgets and building your brand. It's also about communicating or conveying a message, right? So I grew up in a world where death was not to be talked about. And in fact, if an insurance agent were to visit a customer's or prospect's house and start talking about death, that person would have been shown the door straight away. And when you see campaigns, even today, for example, in the recent, the ongoing India-England test series, I see this advertisement where someone comes in the frame and then goes out of that photo frame and talks about death. So I think talking about death in a society where it's not a topic that people would like to talk, and saying that term insurance is what one has to buy, right? So that's a very big thing. And as I said, I use the word buy, right? So I think one of the things Policy Bazaar has done also is that trying to change the industry from something where products are sold into an industry where products can be bought as well. And that applies to retail insurance, health and term in particular. The third one I have seen very closely with PB is the willingness to experiment. Now, what do I mean by experimentation? So there are customer journeys that you have on the website. You don't know what works when, and you don't know what works for whom. So I think all those customizations do happen by doing experimentation on an ongoing basis. The experimentation also plays a big role in the way PB does, from whatever I have seen, on customer risk profiling. I think morning we heard Kamesh talk about lead indicators and lag indicators. I think one of the things I have personally seen PB, and I keep saying PB, Policy Bazaar is PB for me, is also using the customer data, which is more personalized, current, and using that to identify certain lead indicators. And this has played a big role in not only the risk profiling of the customer, but also in designing products. I think these are the three things that comes to my mind straight away. And I know that PB has done a lot more in transforming several parts of the insurance industry. So that's my quick introduction. And who can take us into this fascinating world of Policy Bazaar? That's going to be Sarbvir. So he will open the doors and then take us into the world of what PB does. Because everything PB does is also data driven. It's not just traditional numerical data. There is also unstructured data. There are conversations. Everything plays a big role in how PB continues to transform the industry. With that, I will hand over to Sarbvir. After he finishes his session, we will open the floor for questions. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Yeah, morning everyone, and first of all, I'd like to thank Gopal sir for a very generous introduction. Also to the Institute of Actuaries for inviting us. I have to say that this is a kind of a special moment for us. As distributors, we are not always necessarily have a seat on this table. And for as many of you who are here, I hope in the next 10-15 minutes to give you a sense of what Policy Bazaar is. And I think the conventional narrative is to look at us as a seller of insurance. But we believe that we are a lot more than that, and I'd like to explain that to you. So with that, I think 2 or 3 things I want to tell you about how Policy Bazaar has approached insurance for the last 15 plus years. See, first of all, to understand us, we look at everything from a consumer lens. So Yashish, Alok, Tarun, who's also here, some of the people who started Policy Bazaar, they were not necessarily from the insurance industry. They essentially were applying a lens of data, analytics and technology to insurance, just like others had applied it to travel and other domains or e-commerce. So I think the first point was to look at it from a consumer lens and to look at it from a first principles approach, which means that not to take anything for granted, but to look at things how they should be. And I believe that we have one golden rule, which is that we should treat customers as we would like to be treated ourselves. So if we would not like to answer certain questions or to be asked the same question 5 times repeatedly, we should not ask the customer as well. So that is kind of, I would say, the 3 things that we've worked upon. Now, one thing I would like to say that the idea of first principle thinking is not to say that whatever is happening is useless and we should throw that out of the window. I think you find that a lot of things that are happening are actually correct. So 60, 70, 80% of what is happening is normally right. But there is the 30, 40% which can be changed. So first principles combines the status quo, what is happening, along with a few changes. And again, we'll talk about some of those. These are some numbers. We have 7.5 crore registered users. 4 crore policies have been sold to over 1.5 crore Indians. The idea of giving these numbers is more to give you a sense that it's a very comprehensive platform and a large portion of India actually uses us. So we are a very middle class, I would say, targeted company. Our average customer is about 30 years old, 30 to 35. 70 to 80% of them are male, so they are mostly male dominated. We are changing that quite rapidly, and I'll talk about that. The third thing is that normally their household income is anywhere between 5 and 15 lakhs. So just take a moment to think about it. Their yearly household income is 5 to 15 lakhs. So this is very much, I would say, middle India. We sell products across all the categories: life, health, general, and others. Over the last 15 years, this year we are at 17,000 crores, about $2 billion of annual premium. Roughly half of this is life, roughly the other half is GI. We have a fairly sizable book, both in terms of fresh business as well as renewal premium. Now, as we go forward, I thought first, let's talk about what are the disruptions, right? What has changed and what has Policybazaar done? Gopal sir covered some of these points, but I'll still, go through them. The first is the concept of buying insurance versus being sold insurance. And I think this is a very, very key point, that whatever we do, a large portion of people come to Policybazaar to buy insurance. So while some of you may believe that we do a lot of calling, and we do that I think that chasing the customer is very important, but we only call people who have come to the website. So there is no question of calling anyone who has not been. So that is one of the key drivers of our business model, the fact that people come to Policybazaar. And again, as Gopal sir said, we've invested over, I would say, 2,000 odd crores in advertising over the last decade and a half. And almost all of this money has gone to talking very directly about the need for term insurance, about the need for health insurance, and in a very, very clear manner, explaining the consequences of not having these products. We've tried to use humor in some of the situations, but every time we speak very directly, because unfortunately, both death and disease and disability are a part of life, and there is no way that we can deny that. And unless we talk directly, you're not able to get through to the customer. The second point, I think, is that we focus on protection products. So a large portion of our value and our effort comes from our focus on health insurance and term insurance. We believe that these are two products which are essential for every Indian. And why do I say that? I say that because India, as we know, is largely, we are a developing country. We are still coming up the income ladder. And if you look at the middle class, if anything happens to a family, like if there is any death or disability or disease, a major disease to the chief wage earner, the family gets set back. I'm sure many of you will know examples where an incident happens, family which is doing reasonably okay, suddenly is not able to afford, kids going to school or having a certain lifestyle, and the family has to go back. Now, in certain countries, there is a social security, there is a safety net which is available from the state. But as we know, in our country, while the lowest income classes, the government does try to help, in the middle income classes, there is really no help. So it's very, very important, and I think insurance is a wonderful concept, a wonderful idea, which can serve that purpose, that people who can afford the premium should do it, and if there is any problem, they get money. And I think this is a very important societal need as well. The second point is that we bring transparency to complex choices. I think most of you would agree, insurance products are complex. They are not easy to understand from a customer perspective. I'm sure many people in this room, I think, hopefully will understand insurance products. But for the average person, it's really, really hard. So we try to bring transparency and clarity in terms of what those choices are. The third thing that we've been able to do using these first two is to create new segments. So there are many segments of the insurance industry, and I'll cover these later in detail, which were not served. Like term insurance for housewives is one good example, which Policybazaar has pioneered and we have brought to the table. The reason we are able to do a lot of these things is the fact that we have a very high level of customer declaration. The fact that customers come to us, they share information. Because they share information, they allow you to accurately assess the risk. As all of you know, insurance stripped to its core is a very, very, very simple product. There is a risk. As long as you're able to assess the risk, you are able to price for it. The challenge comes that when we are not able to assess the risk or there is misdeclaration, and I think that's what we try to prevent. Finally, we offer, our platform is sort of comprehensive and complete in its own way. We offer end-to-end journeys. A customer can make a payment and buy the product completely on the Policybazaar platform, including support for issuance, medicals, etc., etc. So we cover that. And I would say that the second thing which we have really focused on in the last many years is claims. Because finally, the moment of truth in insurance is a claim. The skepticism around our industry is all around the claims process. And what we've tried to do is to bring clarity and transparency to that process as well, so that as many examples as we can have of people having got a claim helps us, build the product, build the industry. I think these are the 4 things that work. I've spoken about customer intent. I'll talk about segmentation, I think high disclosure rates, and the risk assessment. Now, just for a second, we have 15 years of historical data. We record every call that is made on our platform. Each of these calls is transcribed, is sort of understood, analyzed, and we have all that data for the last 15 years, and we work on that. I covered this part. I won't spend too much time just to explain that because people come to us, they are much more willing to talk, they focus on the right kind of products, and they have much higher persistency and renewal rates. Now, finally, we are in an industry where economics has to add up. So these are things that help, even from an insurer's perspective. These are some of the segments that we have pioneered using data and analytics. I think we are really proud of our work in housewives and working women. Just to give you a sense, a few years ago, women were about 5-6% of our term insurance business by number of policies. Today, they are about 13-14% by number of policies. It's a concerted campaign that we have run, both on television, on our website, in terms of bringing better products to the table. And again, this audience will know that women have better mortality experience than men. So actually, again, this is good business as well. So that's something that we brought to the table. Self-employed, this is a very big segment. Actually, contrary to what most people believe, most of India is self-employed. We are really not a salaried nation. Self-employed people have one major challenge, which is to prove their income. And we brought many products to the table where, without income proof, we are able to offer term insurance. Non-resident Indians, I'll skip some of them. The other one that I want to talk about is senior citizens. Now, senior citizens have a unique problem in health insurance, which is that the premium obviously starts to go up a lot because the probability of a claim goes up. And unfortunately, that is the exact time when you need insurance the most. And what we've been trying to do is to offer a range of, now we can't solve that problem, but what we've tried to do is offer a range of products. So starting from products which have longer waiting periods, which have a co-pay, which have sublimits, which are more affordable, to comprehensive products, which are without sublimits, which have very high, with no co-pay, which have the ability to take very high sum insureds. We are able to offer this range. And this allows senior citizens across the board to take products which fit their budget. And this has been a very important focus for us. Finally, I will talk about the motor segment, where, we always hear a lot about pay-as-you-drive products. We hear a lot about telematics, etc. Now, the challenge is that how do you make all this real? Because in a market like India, where the pricing power, the paying capability is only so much. Now, this is where we believe we have brought a very clear proposition to the table, where customers who drive less, supposing you have a second car, you live closer to your place of work, etc., are able to buy products. And now the success in this is that 30% of our business for those insurers comes from these products. So it's not a niche anymore, it's something that people are able to buy. I think housewives I've spoken about. This came about after the famous judgment by Justice Ramanna that housewives, do earn add economic value, which was important. We spoke about pay-as-you-go. In terms of disclosure rates, our disclosure rates are roughly 2 times the average industry level. Now, here I want to just talk about one thing which I hear a lot from the actuarial profession, which is that who filled the proposal form? actually that is one of the key questions to answer, that whether the proposal form was filled directly by the customer independently or were they guided. Now, minute there is guidance, we all know that there is scope for, I would say, some kind of chaos happening. And this is something, a problem that we work on a lot. We are able to identify whether a customer filled the proposal form himself or herself, or were they helped by an agent. And again, I think this is a very important metric which helps in determining risk. These are some of the things that we do in terms of looking at what customers are talking about. The example over here is kind of important. In health insurance, there is a lot of complaints that happen that I had disclosed my certain illness, but it was not recorded in the proposal form. It can happen again in term also. But what we now do is that we compare that what was said on the call, whether or not it was recorded in the PF or not. And if it is not recorded in the PF, we flag that. This helps to reduce the grievances as well as give a very smooth experience to the customer. In health insurance, there is this issue that comes up from time to time, that if you increase disclosure, your loss ratios will go up. This, of course, as some of us know, is a myth. What actually happens is that when you have higher disclosures, you are able to price for that. It leads to much higher level of customer satisfaction. So our CSAT in health is at over 90%. It leads to a higher claim settlement ratio. So again, versus the industry averages, we are at 10 points higher than that for our customers. And finally, we have a better LR than the industry. And again, this is because of the fact that because you know what you are writing, you are able to sort of underwrite it properly. So this is an important issue which we keep talking about, that what we do is good for both customers as well as for insurers. Now, risk assessment is kind of a key focus at Policybazaar. This is something that we spend a lot of time and energy on. And I'll just take you through an example where what we do on the life insurance side. I won't go through all the slides. There's a lot to unpack. But what we say is that we are taking ownership of the mortality experience. So we are not saying that it's not just the insurance company's job to be responsible for the mortality. It's our job as well. So we look at it on an end-to-end basis. We have a full risk model which we work on from time to time. We have underwriting infrastructure. We have a team which focuses on this thing. And finally, for all the AI, machine learning, Gen AI, etc. that we use, we have a human in the loop. This is a very important point because technology, for the sake of technology, has no meaning. It has meaning only when it is used to deliver some outcome. And for that outcome, even today, you need to have a human being to make sure that you are able to be correct. See, we are in an industry where every decision matters. So rejecting somebody, we have to be very sure that we are rejecting them for the right reason. So we use human to make sure that problems are identified and cross-checked. This is an important sort of set of data over here. Today, our models are able to get 95% of early death that we have. One of the things that we've learned from a lot of these models is that you have to keep iterating on them. It doesn't, just because it worked 6 months ago, doesn't mean it will work next year. So we focus a lot on the iteration, and we also focus a lot on trying to keep the factors within ourselves. So if there is any factor that we have identified which is a problem, it will not show up to the customer that this is the reason why you are being rejected. Because the minute the factor is known, then it can be gamed. So that's one other area that we are very careful about. We have a risk graph. This is something I believe that the industry should have, not just Policybazaar, where we actually cover payment, booking, and the proposal form. So if you come to Policybazaar using a different phone number, different email address, different address, it doesn't matter. We will be able to trace you. We are able to find if there was any incident with you, either claim repudiation, early death, anything. We are able to track and trace you. Just to give you a sense, we reject 3 to 5% of our life insurance business. So 3 to 5% of business that we are paid for, we do not actually pass on to the insurance company because we are aware that there is some problem in that. Similarly, in the health side, we reject 2 to 3% of business. We use a lot of tech to do all these things. We compare against impersonation, we compare the voice of the person who spoke to us with the voice that the person speaks to the service. I show you we do a PIVC, video verification, so we compare that voice as well, and we compare the face to the various things. Now, many of you will probably feel that you heard all of this before. A lot of people talk about it, but I think the key is in implementing all this. The theory is quite straightforward. The practice is the difficult part, and how to make those iterations and how to make those changes. This is just an example of our risk framework. This is the heart of our model, which scores the customer based on the attributes of the journey. If the score is above 300, then you go through this live video verification, matching, risk assessment, etc. If your score is below 300, you go straight through to the insurance company. At the end of it, we generate a PDF. We share this with all our insurance partners in the form of an API. They are free to use this in their underwriting. We also tell you what are the issues that we see, what was matched, what was not matched, what are the various challenges. So the underwriter can take a considered view whether they wish to approve or disapprove of the case. Finally, what was the point of discussing all this? That using data analytics and implementation of the risk model has allowed us to open several segments in term insurance. We were the first and frankly only distributor to focus on Saral Jeevan Bima, which was the regulator's initiative a few years ago, where we were offering insurance to below 3 lakhs. We were able to offer lower prices for the preferred segment after COVID, self-employed, as I spoke to you earlier, and now we are offering for high sum assured term, we are being able to offer a better price because of this model. The other thing that I want to talk about is that we are not always in favor. There is another view that we are always in favor of a smoother journey for our customers. Now, of course, that is true, but we also understand what is right and what is wrong. We are among the few people in the industry who believe that physical medicals are better than telemedicals. We encourage all insurance companies to do physical medicals. We have a 92% medical completion rate. We focus a lot on this, and we believe that this allows us to measure risk much more accurately. Similarly, the use of income estimation, I think this got discredited during COVID. We have been able to unpack this and show that it works well in certain salaried profiles where it doesn't work in self-employed. So we say that use it where it does and don't use it, where it doesn't. So we, work on things on a very data-driven basis. I think that was more about Policy Bazaar. I just want to use this forum to talk about 2 or 3 points which I believe can help us as an industry going forward. The first is that what we see is that there is information asymmetry even within the insurance value system. And what I mean by that is that the customer tells us or the distributor certain things. Some part of that is transferred to the insurer. Now, even within the insurer, there is actually 2 sets of people. One are the sales, product, operations people on one end who get this, this data or some part of this data. And then there is the underwriting and actuarial people at the other end, at the back end of the process. Now, if you think about it, and then finally, of course, in cases like term, there is a reinsurer. Now, the problem is that this is like Chinese whispers. The amount of information that comes through this funnel by the time it reaches the reinsurer is much diluted and is many times transformed, loses a lot of its specificity. And I think this is something that if we want to, as an industry, we want to change, we should think about this as to how whatever picture that we have can be, shared with everybody. Finally, we are in the risk business, and risk is important for all of us. If we are not supportive of risk, then, finally there will be no industry at the end of it all. So what we believe is that you should pick up clues from the entire process to form a complete picture. These clues should be shared across the value chain in real time so that people can take calls on that or learn from them. I think we should also focus on advanced technology, but we should have human insights part of that. And the final thing which, especially for the, I would say, back-end process, which is important, is to stay open to new ideas. Many times there is a lot of history in this industry, literally, right? So a lot of things have been tried in the past. Maybe they worked, maybe they didn't work. So there's a tendency to judge ideas very quickly. So my request to all of you, since you are the time bearers, is to stay open, test things. If they work, you can let them go on. Otherwise, you can, stop. Finally, as my time is also up, I just want to end by saying that all of us have to work together, whichever part of the value chain that we are in, to ensure that we can achieve our goal for insurance for all, and also to build a developed nation. Thank you.
Okay, Kritika, can we open the floor for questions, or are we totally out of time? Okay, maybe can we pick at least 2 questions from the audience?
Your wonderful insights on things. I just wanted to gather your thoughts on the intervention of artificial intelligence and prompts in underwriting vis-a-vis the manual underwriting, and what is the penetration in the Indian market for the same? Thank you.
Yeah, I think AI is as I explained to you, is a wonderful tool. We use a lot of AI to. So let me maybe take a step back. See, what does AI really mean? It means that you have a set of outcomes and you have a set of inputs. And instead of trying to be deterministic about how the inputs lead to the outcomes allow you to judge or allow you to create a model for how the inputs are categorized. The challenge with many AI models is that you are not able to determine how the weights are for various inputs. So that makes it a little risky, especially in a context where human beings are involved. So what I believe is that you have to use the AI tools to create ways in which you can, see, we can't trouble 100 people. See, finally, what is the unsaid problem of our industry? That whatever is the 3, 4, 2% of people who are doing fraud, they are the ones who make life difficult for the remaining 95. So what we are trying to do is, let's try to identify those 3, 4 people first and focus on them rather than focusing on the 95 or troubling the 95. And I think that's where AI plays a very big role and allows us to filter very quickly as to who we should go after and who we should not.
Hi, Sarbvir. So, first of all, I would like to appreciate the venture Policy Bazaar, and it is well timed in nature if we talk about Indian insurance sector. I have a couple of questions with you. Firstly, the data protection bill that is coming into limelight, and you being the third party to the insurance companies as well as the the end customer, how do you see it as a challenge for yourself, given that you also mentioned that you have 15 plus year of data and all? And the second question is that any further plans to maybe do the same thing in the reinsurance and specialty lines that you did for the personal insurance?
So I'll take the first one. I think the data protection bill, as you know, is still the laws are being formulated. I think as a responsible company, we will definitely abide by all the laws. I believe that our intent is always to do everything with customer consent. So I think the process, the flows will change because of the new regulations, but nothing changes in terms of our doing everything by customer consent. So if the law says that the data has to be, removed after a certain number of years, etc., we'll do that. But my view is that we are doing things which are in the interest of the customer, in the interest of the industry. And of course, our insurance partners are very reputable companies. So all of us will follow, the law of the land. Second point, I think the way I look at it is that we are natural allies with reinsurers in the sense that we are bringing the sort of front end to the table. They are carrying actually most of the back end risk in the industry. And there is some value through data sharing as well as through working together. Beyond that, I think reinsurance is a very different business. It has huge capital intensity and is a very different type of approach. But definitely, the the application of data and analytics, as we have done to the insurance part, I think has applications in reinsurance and other lines. And I think as we go through that process, we will definitely aim to do that. I think it's the capital intensity that obviously we don't want to be a part of, but the front end part of it, we definitely want to be part of.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I think we have run out of time. There is a time's up in bold red staring at me. So I will probably ask the last question, Sarbvir. When do you think, or do you think we will reach a stage where we can say a term insurance and a health insurance can be delivered in something that is like an Amazon experience, or pretty much closer to that? Will it ever happen? If we want to make it happen, what should all of us in the room at least start doing or stop doing?
I believe it will happen, Gopal sir. I think it will happen. We have over 10,000 of my colleagues working towards that, and not sure of the time, but I think we will definitely get there. That is very much our goal. I think what we need to do for that is, one is that we have to further, I think, simplify processes. Actually, the first thing is we have to create more awareness, especially for term insurance. I think the awareness for term insurance as an industry is really not there. Very few people talk about it publicly, but that's something that we have to create. After that, I think it's more a game of process, because actually if you see the prices, in pricing in both health and term insurance in India are very, very attractive, even today, especially relative to what they are in developed countries. So I think the pricing is there. I think the products are also actually are pretty good. They have all kinds of bells and whistles. I don't think the product issue. It's more an issue of getting it out there and making the process smoother. So what would really help is that if the data rails that we have, right? So for example, if I could judge somebody's health record by using their health records rather than asking for information, I think that makes a big difference, because every step is an element of friction and a possible area where inaccuracies can come up. So I think the creation of these data pipes will lead to a point where a lot of this can be done. And in health insurance, I think the main challenge is that a lot of the underwriting is actually done at the back end instead of the front end. So that's something, again, if we have these data pipes, we can do that. So I think we are moving in the right direction. Customers are becoming more aware of the need to make declarations, etc. So I do feel that what you're saying will happen, but it will definitely take time and a lot of effort from everybody.
Thank you very much. I think with that positive note, and that should be the future description which will help the customers eventually. I think with that, I'll close the session. We are run out of time. And please join me in thanking Sarbvir for sharing his experience with.
Thank you so much. We would like to thank both of you. Can I please request Mr. Balachandra Joshi to come up on stage and present the mementos to K.S. Gopalkrishnan and Mr. Sarbvir.